A former Spring Valley High School coach is at the center of an active state police investigation confirmed after his death. Tonight at 5, what we know about Robert Michael Hall and the response from Wayne County schools.
I want the money for school clothes, not for beer and cigarettes. I'm sorry, but I'm going to push for that.
And are school clothing vouchers being misused, or is the system failing West Virginia families? The questions lawmakers now want answered tonight.
This is your News on 8 at 5.
West Virginia police have confirmed an active investigation involving a former coach in Wayne County who died last week.
And that coach was also married to a Wayne County Board of Education member. State Police Captain L.T. Goldie says troopers are conducting an active investigation involving Robert Michael Hall, who was the cross-country, track and field, and swim coach for Spring Valley High School.
Wayne County Schools released a statement Friday on their website and Facebook stating that the school system has been cooperating with law enforcement regarding an investigation involving an individual who previously served as an athletic coach with Wayne County Schools. According to an obituary on Roland's Funeral Home, Hall died on July 27th. Hall's wife, Missy Hall, is the Wayne County Board President. Parents have reached out to WCHS saying they want more answers and are calling for the school system to be more transparent. The statement from the board states, quote, "Consistent with guidance from investigators and our obligation to protect student privacy, we cannot discuss the details of the investigation," end quote. You can read that full statement of the story on our webpage.
Investigators are working to find out what caused a deadly fire in Huntington. Here's what we know. The fire started inside a home on Norway Avenue shortly before 11 this morning. The state fire marshal's office says a man was found dead inside that house. Huntington firefighters say the fire was limited to one room. Officials have not released the man's name or the cause of the fire yet.
Barboursville police need your help finding a stolen car and the person who took it. Investigators say somebody stole keys from a woman's purse at Help for Animals, then took her silver Kia Sportage from the parking lot. The West Virginia license plate is DYD247. And take a look at your screen. Police say the suspect was spotted walking along US 60 before the theft. Anybody with information should contact Barboursville Police.
Well, it's been another very hot and muggy day out there with sunshine, but there's been downpours, and quite a few of them compared to yesterday at this time, especially if you were initially west of the Ohio River. Now those are spilling over into north central parts of West Virginia and parts of the coal fields as well. So it's a lot more active out there on the radar right now than it was this time yesterday, although places like Charleston, it's still the same. It's still dry. There's no active warnings. We did have some flash flood warnings in southeastern Scioto County and Greenup counties earlier. Keep an eye on northeastern Jackson County, West Virginia there. There's some big downpours currently, quick 1 to 2 inches of rain there. Not much going on along I-64 right now. That little thin green line, though, is an outflow boundary, kind of a mini front. So we'll get a little gust of wind from that here in the Kanawha Valley here pretty soon, and that might drop the temperatures a few degrees. There's the big downpours there, especially just east of Ravenswood right now. So keep an eye on the streams and creeks, places like Sandyville and up towards Wirt County. Wirt County Fair underway. Looks like it's going to get a little stormy for about an hour, hour and a half before that tails off. Parkersburg about to get a downpour as well with some lightning. And there's a few scattered cells just passing near Logan and Chapmanville and down near Paintsville. And that's tracking from south to north. So temperatures, where it hasn't rained today, Charleston's 90, 82 for Huntington, and some spots have dropped into the 70s here if you've gotten a downpour recently. And it does look like we may see some activity form around Charleston a little bit closer to 8, 9 o'clock this evening, but then it would quickly fade away. So just be on the lookout for some scattered downpours, some thunder and lightning. That will fade overnight as we see some areas of fog develop. We'll bottom out at around 70, and we're going to do this all over again for tomorrow. We'll time that out for you and your weekend ahead in just a bit.
Thank you, Doug. Well, West Virginia's school clothing voucher program takes yet another twist. After the governor said he'd be investigating the state's clothing voucher spending, state leaders and advocates are questioning whether Patrick Morrissey's concerns are valid.
8 reporter Bailey Tucker brings us the latest development in a story we've been covering for over a month.
If your family receives a school clothing voucher from the state, the way you're able to use that money might soon change. Governor Patrick Morrisey says he's wanting that money to only be used for clothes and not cash withdrawals.
We can put guardrails in place around these programs. We can't just pass out a bunch of money without any sort of accountability.
New numbers are coming out of the governor's office for school clothing voucher spending, and he's wondering where the money is actually going. A social media post suggests nearly half of the money's being withdrawn from ATMs and cannot be traced.
I want the money for school clothes, not for beer or cigarettes. I'm sorry, but I'm going to push for that, and I'm not going to let people change the topic.
Fayette County Senator and Senate Health Committee Chairman Brian Helton says his committee is planning to take a look at the program and figure out how to prevent the misuse of funds.
We've already called next week during our legislative oversight, our locker meeting, that we're going to have folks in to testify about this.
But advocates question how firmly the argument stands. Moms Rising campaign organizer Amy Jo Hutchinson says many stores won't let you use an EBT card to buy clothes, which forces families to use a Quest ATM to get the cash they need.
They think you're buying beer and cigarettes. They think you're out here performing some sort of illegal activity, when really you're going to the ATM machine because the store that in your town doesn't accept EBT for clothing purchases.
According to the DOHS, EBT cards operate like debit cards and can be used at any retailer who accepts EBT cash transactions. If the merchant does not accept those, the benefit can be withdrawn at a Quest ATM to complete the purchase. So Hutchinson feels lower income families get unfairly judged by this investigation.
Instead, it seems to me to be a bunch of poverty bias and prejudice, and he just wants people to believe that we can't be trusted with $200 in clothing vouchers because we're, performing some sort of illegal activity.
Reporting in Charleston, Bailey Tucker on 8.
Tools for School, presented by Salango Law and sponsored by Encova Insurance.
We're collecting school supplies again this year to make sure kids in our area have what they need to succeed in the classroom. We're partnering with the United Way, Salango Law, and Encova for our annual Tools for School drive. Salango Law's Ben Salango says the right supplies can help make sure every student starts the school year on equal footing.
Just anything we can do to help these kids get a good start, have a solid foundation when they go back to school, it's very important. Some of them can't even afford to bring a lunch or to pay for school lunch. So having hungry kids without proper supplies, it's a recipe for failure. And so we want to do anything we can to make sure that these kids are successful.
And you can help kids get the essential things they need for a great academic year by donating school supplies such as notebooks, backpacks, pens, paper. Our Tools for School drive will run from August 3rd through the 14th. You can drop off items at the United Way in Charleston, also right here at our studios in Charleston. Help us make sure children and students in our area have what they need for a great school year.
Well, city leaders from across West Virginia are in Charleston this week sharing ideas about the future of their communities. Today's Municipal League Conference included workshops on artificial intelligence, public art, downtown development, and drone safety. Attendees also heard from mayors and city managers about the challenges facing local governments. Charleston Mayor Amy Goodwin says the conference gives local leaders a chance to share ideas, learn best practices, and build connections across the state.
We have invited 230 cities, towns, and villages from all across the Mountain State. This is our organization that reaches out to do best practices, training, and to make sure that we're connecting our local municipal leaders to one another.
The conversation about West Virginia cities continues tomorrow with workshops focusing on tourism, vacant properties, rural development, cybersecurity, public safety, and the Municipal League's annual awards dinner.
A new water project in Kanawha County has now begun. Today, the Kanawha County Commission hosted a ceremony to celebrate the groundbreaking for the Upper Rambling Hills Water Project that will install new water lines, a booster station, road repairs, ditch line restoration, an emergency generator, and 12 customer service connections.
It's been a couple of years in the works already. There's already been a couple of delays, so I'm just, until, I'm cautiously optimistic until there's actually, work being done. I'm still going to continue doing what I've been doing, but it looks like we're seeing the finish lines.
The project is expected to be finished at the end of the year. Well, people living near a proposed power line route will have 2 chances to speak with the project team. The project would rebuild a transmission line across Lawrence and Johnson counties in Kentucky and Wayne County, West Virginia. Some parts of the route could require new or expanded easements. Kentucky Power and Appalachian Power expect to choose a route late this year, then seek approval from regulators in both states. Construction could begin in fall 2029, with the line expected to be in service by fall of 2030. Landowners can review the proposed routes and ask questions at 2 open houses. The first one, August 26th, from 5 to 7 at the Louisa Senior Citizen Center. The second is August 27th at the Paintsville High School gym. The companies say public input will help shape the final route. Comments are due September 2nd.
Another left-wing progressive Democratic win, this time in Michigan's Senate race. I'm Matt Gelka in Washington, where the question now is, will progressive candidates have to move towards the middle in order to win in November?
Well, the battle for a key Michigan Senate seat is now set. Progressive Democrat Abdul El-Sayed will face Republican Mike Rogers after surviving a much closer than expected primary.
Matt Galco looks at whether El-Sayed's progressive message can carry him through November.
Left-wing Democrat Abdul El-Sayed declared victory Wednesday morning after a grueling Michigan Senate primary against moderate candidate Congresswoman Haley Stevens. It was a closer than expected vote count that went his way.
What a race. In the words of Muhammad Ali, we shook up the world.
El-Sayed is riding a wave of Democratic progressive populism. He's not a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, but instead likens himself to progressive Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders and progressive New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who both endorsed him. But the tight winning margin has some wondering if he'll need to pivot closer to the center in order to win in November.
He had a very arrogant campaign, and now today he just discovered that less than a majority of your state's only Democrats didn't even want you and vote for you. You came in around 48%. So, you have a real situation as Democrats now that puts that seat in play.
Sometimes, intra-family squabbles are the biggest ones. We're going to build a movement that reaches out to everybody.
Republicans are already on the attack.
I sure am dangerous. We take them to the mud and choke them out.
Abdul El-Sayed, dangerously radical.
President Trump wrote on Truth Social, great news for the Republican Party. El-Sayed, a communist loser who hates Jews and Israel, is the projected winner in his race. Michigan Republican Senate nominee Mike Rogers says his opponent's views are too extreme for the state.
This is really about the heart and soul of our country. I have never seen someone so radical, so extreme, get nominated by a political party.
The next progressive and Democratic Socialist power test comes in the race for Wisconsin governor. The primary is next Tuesday, with Democratic Socialist candidate Francesca Hong leading in the polls over establishment-backed Democratic candidate David Crowley. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
And we want to hear from you. Would you ever vote for a socialist candidate? To answer that question, just open your camera on your phone, scan the QR code, and vote on our website. We'll have results tomorrow on 8 News at noon.
And stick with us. Doug Harlow's got your full forecast and what you can expect ahead of the weekend. Well, definitely more hot and humid outside than it has been the last few days. And rain showers are scattered here and there. I know Charleston really didn't see any today, but that might change. Not yet.
There's a possibility here between now and 9 o'clock there could be something. It wouldn't last long.
Okay.
And it would cool it down. Actually, it's going to cool down anyway. We're at 90 now. First 90-degree day officially at Yeager Airport since July 17th. But I think that's going to quickly become, 84, 85 degrees. Got a little boundary that's moving in. Most of the storms have been concentrated up along and west of the Ohio River. In fact, early this morning, we had a downpour pop up in northern Wayne County, produced a quick 1 to 2 inches of rain, prompted a flash flood warning. That's since long expired. So have the ones in southeastern Scioto County and Greenup County, but 2-3 inches of rain in some spots there. Big downpour is just not really moving very much. They've dried out there, though. This is the trouble spot right now is eastern Jackson County. Ravenswood got some heavy rain, and particularly here around Lockhart, east of I-77 there in northeastern Jackson County. It's been about 2 inches of rainfall, so streams and creeks probably running high. Fortunately, it looks like the worst of that's starting to lift off to the north and the east, so I think this will start to tail off a little bit here. But that's heading into Work County. Work County Fair underway. A little dicey for the next hour, hour and a half. So, yeah, going to be pouring, and then it should clear up after that, probably after about 7 o'clock. Parkersburg's got a downpour moving your way as well, and some of this on the southern end, making its way through southern Jackson County near Winfield. That's pushing away from Route 35, though, into northeastern parts of Putnam County. Charleston, nothing. It's 90, but see this little green line? That's an outflow boundary, basically like a little mini front. So there'll be a gust of wind with this. It's rolling into Dunbar right now, and it should drop the temperature a few degrees. I mean, it's still going to be quite warm, but that will cool things down a little bit. And it could help to develop a shower or thunderstorm behind it. So that's what we'll be watching for over the next couple of hours in the Kanawha Valley. Meanwhile, county fairs, Gallia, Scioto County, had some big downpours earlier, but things are drying out. So it looks pretty good there for the rest of the evening. Meanwhile, we got a couple of downpours tracking north of Logan, near Chapmanville, and also just south of Logan, too. Some rain about to move back into downtown. Paintsville as well. These are all moving. Nothing real organized or too wild, just your typical summer downpours that come and go. But we've got this little dash line, this little trough that kind of set up across southeastern Ohio, which kind of developed that line of showers and storms today. I think that's going to shift east overnight tonight. There's another front back to our west, but that's just kind of hanging around up in the upper Midwest right now. So tomorrow we may get in a little bit more in this zone. There'll still be a scattered shower or thunderstorm threat, but I think it's going to be a little less concentrated than ones for today. But over the next couple hours, again, we'll see those showers and storms lifting off to the north and east, and there is a possibility of something developing closer to Charleston here, 7, 8 o'clock this evening. So just keep an eye to the sky. You know, those clouds start billowing here. You could get a 30-minute downpour, and then it will move out. By midnight, that's just faded to some spotty showers, and we'll see some areas of fog develop overnight, dropping back into the lower 70s. We're going to heat right back up again tomorrow, upper 80s to about 90. It will feel like mid to upper 90s with the humidity factored in. But notice, okay, 5 o'clock tomorrow, Futurecast isn't real excited about storm chances. There's a couple in eastern West Virginia. As we get into tomorrow evening, there's a couple more that pop up, but that's less coverage than it was today. I think the atmosphere is a little worked over. But Friday, yeah, we'll fire up a couple more showers and storms in the afternoon. If this forecast model's right, though, we could clear that out pretty quickly here late in the afternoon and evening on Friday, which would be great for some concerts. So again, these scattered downpours that will come and go, that's going to be the rule for the next several days. Saturday, too. Still think Sunday it's much more isolated, so many of us are dry Sunday and just hot. And we're actually going to get into the lower 90s early next week. Storm chances initially to our north Monday, but they'll start dropping south with a front next Tuesday and Wednesday.
Well, small business now facing a big lawsuit after the popular Buc-ee's gas station claims their logo has been copied. We've got the details coming up next.
A battle of the beavers is heading to federal court. Buc-ee's is suing a mom-and-pop store in Beaver Creek, Ohio, claiming its cartoon beaver mascot looks too much like the convenience chain's famous logo. Josh Minier from our sister station in Dayton has those details.
On Friday.
Well, electric cars are improving, but the incentives that once helped attract buyers are disappearing. The $7,500 federal tax credit ended last October, and the average electric car now costs about $57,000. That's roughly $10,000 more than the industry average. Charging can still be inconvenient, but battery speed and infrastructure are getting better. Experts recommend leasing first to see whether an electric car fits your lifestyle.
That's a smart idea.
That is. This day and age, anything to save money, especially $10,000. That's a big chunk of money.
It is.
Well, nearly 1 million riders have tried Zoox, and now the company wants to pay them to pay. Zoox says paid robotaxi rides will begin in Las Vegas August 10th. Now, fares would be based on a starting price, trip distance, and travel time. The company has not disclosed that starting price. Its driverless shuttles have no traditional controls and can carry up to 4 passengers. Zoox officials also say they still need state and local approvals before expanding paid rides elsewhere.
Well, Retail Me Not is changing how it helps shoppers find online deals. The company has launched a new app that combines promo codes, cash back, and AI-powered search tool. Retail Minot says the app checks codes from participating stores before showing them to the users in an effort to cut down on expired or invalid offers. The app is available on iOS and Android. And a Barbie holiday classic is getting a new look 25 years after it first helped to launch the brand's animated movies. Mattel is planning a year-long celebration of Barbie in the Nutcracker, which was first released in 2001. The company says the anniversary will include a new animated special, a line of dolls and other products, and the return of several older Barbie movies. The original Barbie in the Nutcracker will also be released on Netflix later this year. Mattel says more announcements are expected as the anniversary celebration continues.
Well, from nearly no police department to a new crackdown on crime, Fort Gary's police chief says his officers are now taking a more proactive approach, including a child exploitation sting that could lead to more arrests. Coming up, the message he wants criminals to hear.
Your news on 8 at 5:30.
Welcome back. A familiar face is back leading the Fort Gay Police Department. After first taking over the department earlier this year, Chief Evan Wilson returned to the job in July.
Since he first took the job, he's launched several special operations aimed at tackling crime in the small Wayne County town. 8 reporter Bethany Gerald explains how the chief says it's all a part of a new direction for the department.
Chief Evan Wilson says his first priority was stabilizing the department that had been left nearly vacant. Now that policies, procedures, and staffing are in place, he says officers can focus on getting ahead of crime instead of just responding to it.
When I initially came here as the chief of police, it was in a time where there was a transition from basically no police department.
With much of that groundwork behind them, Wilson says the department is shifting its focus, taking proactive measures to clean up the streets.
Operations targeting narcotics trafficking, community policing with bringing in different resources such as Prestera's mobile crisis unit to help our homeless population, help people struggling with mental health and addiction issues.
Most recently, those efforts included Operation Mountain Justice, a week-long child exploitation investigation conducted alongside the nonprofit Veterans for Child Rescue. Police say the operation targeted people who believed they were communicating online with a 14-year-old child.
What we did was specifically target sex trafficking, people that were targeting minors and traveling to go either abduct or have sexual relations with.
The week-long operation resulted in 2 arrests and 13 pending warrants. The arrests include Brandon Walls of Lebanon, Virginia, and Hermilo Hernandez of Logansport, Indiana. Both traveled to Wayne County believing they were meeting a 14-year-old child. They are charged with soliciting a minor, and Hernandez also facing charges for resisting arrest.
Really any criminal behavior, whether it is drug trafficking to sex trafficking, to even looking at our property crimes. You have a very remote location that's far away from the bigger cities that have more resources. So I would say that the criminals view it more as easy pickings, so to say.
To combat that, Wilson says he's looking beyond the department's own resources, bringing in outside partners to help tackle crime and connect people with services.
And sometimes we have to look beyond what is in our state or beyond our capabilities to be able to make those connections and do what we need to do for the betterment of our communities.
Wilson says the goal is to leave one message.
It doesn't matter what type of criminal activity that someone's engaged in, that it will be not tolerated in Fort Gay.
Wilson says Operation Mountain Justice is just the beginning, with more targeted operations planned in the department as it continues rebuilding. In the studio, Bethany Gerald on 8.
Well, the radar a little more active right now than it was this time yesterday. Early this afternoon, it was northern Kentucky, southeastern Ohio dealing with the big downpours and the thunder and lightning. Calmed down in those locations, but now that activity has shifted on off to the east. It's still scattered. Charleston's still dry. Huntington's looking good, but we've got downpours to the north and to the south right now. The strongest one currently in our viewing area happens to be making its way into Wirt County with the Wirt County Fair underway. So a little rough there right now. Give it an hour and then it should start to tail off and the sun will come right back out. Got a few more downpours there in the southern half of Jackson County heading into Roane County, so heads up in Spencer. Charleston, this little thin green line, it's kind of an outflow boundary from the storms out west. Kind of a mini front, so we'll get some gusty winds and it should drop the temperature a few degrees here over the next 30 minutes or so. Still going to be quite warm. And then we got a couple more downpours tracking their way from south to north across the coalfields. Through Paintsville, heads up there in Louisa, downpours making its way towards you. Also up in the parts of Lincoln and Boone counties. And I think some of that activity is going to sneak its way into the Kanawha Valley here by about 7 o'clock this evening. So that 90 in Charleston should drop off here as that little boundary comes on through. Most of us are at least in the 80s, though, with high humidity. And there's that chance, I think, 7, 8 o'clock where we could have some activity near the Kanawha Valley. But it wouldn't last long, and then it would fade away. And then overnight tonight, scattered showers will fade, and we'll see some dense fog by dawn. And then we'll do it all again tomorrow. Hot, muggy, with the chance for some late-day storms. And we'll time it all out for you coming up in just a bit.
Ohio Representative Max Miller says there is, quote, no chance of dropping out of his race for re-election as he denies accusations of abusing his ex-wife and daughter.
The scandal is unraveling on full display, given Miller's former father-in-law is fellow Ohio Republican Senator Bernie Moreno. ABC reporter Christiane Cordero has the details from Washington.
Today, Ohio Republican Representative Max Miller is defiant, insisting he's staying in his bid for re-election as he denies allegations of domestic abuse. In a February police report obtained by ABC News, Miller's ex-wife, Emily Moreno, claims Miller, quote, threw her against the wall, once held a gun to her head, and another time threw hot water on her. Emily Moreno is the daughter of Senator Bernie Moreno, also of Ohio.
I wish he cared about figuring out how to solve his family issues as much as he cares about his political career.
Miller is also accused of fracturing his 2-year-old daughter's collarbone. He denies that accusation and claims she was hurt by employees at daycare. According to court filings, the local Department of Children and Family Services did not find evidence to substantiate allegations of child abuse. Some Republicans on Capitol Hill are calling on Miller to drop out. Speaker Johnson called the allegations serious and said the investigation should run its course. Many other Republican colleagues remain silent. When pressed on Newsmax, Miller compared himself to President Trump in staying defiant.
Everyone came out with allegations. Dozens of women, dozens of crazy allegations, dozens of nasty criminal misconduct. And do you want to know what he did, Rob? He stayed in the fight because Americans see in one of the qualities that they respect the most is somebody who is resilient.
Miller says Trump in a phone call raised concerns about his re-election campaign. The president was asked about Miller while boarding Air Force One yesterday.
I hope he's able to work it out. I feel badly for him.
Vice President Vance today was also asked by a reporter about Miller ahead of a roundtable that included Senator Moreno. Vance did not answer the question. Christiane Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is pushing back on reports that the military is running low on long-range munitions. Now, he called a CNN story on the Reuters report not true. The report suggests the U.S. has used, quote, virtually all of its surface weapons. Such munitions cost about $1 million each. This as the U.S. is reportedly working on a deal with Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
The straits, there are ships moving through the straits. There's oil moving right now through the straits, so the straits are open. Nonetheless, I think that there's a conversation and negotiation that we are involved in between Oman and Iran on how more ships can be able to go through there safely.
If the report is accurate, the U.S. may have to rely on riskier piloted bombing missions in Iran. The sources did not provide details on munition capacity. There's concerns that running low could make deterring adversaries like China and Russia more challenging.
A SpaceX rocket booster the size of a school bus slammed into the moon earlier this morning, a rare case of a man-made collision with the lunar surface. Scientists say the chunk of debris, the second stage of a Falcon 9 rocket launched early last year, hit the moon near the Einstein crater at about 5,400 miles per hour, and with a force of roughly 3 tons of TNT. The impact is expected to create a large new crater on the moon and provide scientists with a new look at high-velocity cosmic collisions. A puppy created for people who are allergic to dogs. Just ahead, why their early results are encouraging, but far from ready for every family. Well, here's some potential good news for those who love dogs but are allergic. Researchers have used genetic scissors to inactivate a gene that produces an allergy-causing protein in dogs. As ABC's Rena Roy reports, the study is raising hope that we could see more hypoallergenic dogs in the future.
This cute little beagle named Bailey is not just any pup. Good girl. She and her sister are the first dogs genetically engineered to be hypoallergenic. Researchers at Kindred Companion Sciences say they inactivated a gene in the dog's DNA, preventing production of an allergy-causing protein.
And I've lived with Bailey for over a year now and haven't had a single allergic reaction. It's been completely life-changing, and she's such a delight.
Geneticist and CEO Matt Walker says he's now able to keep Bailey as his own because of this study. But this is a small proof-of-concept study that only included 2 beagles. It's still unclear if this type of gene editing procedure, which uses a technology called CRISPR, would be safe or practical on a larger scale. If the treatment can one day be used more broadly in the future, experts say it could help some of the 1 in 8 Americans who have an allergy that makes living with a dog difficult. But there are also critics who have raised ethical concerns about breeding dogs for hypoallergenic purposes.
It opens the door to a lot more people being able to own pets. On the negative side, it may discourage people from trying to use strays and unwanted animals. They're not engineered to be, allergy-free.
So far, the researchers say that both of the gene-edited dogs have had normal growth and development since they were born in 2024, but longer-term effects are not yet known. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
Well, it's been a hot and muggy Wednesday, but could more storms take us through the rest of the week? Doug Harlow's got your forecast after the break.
So Doug, for somebody like myself who's new to the area, new to Charleston, the weather we're having right now, is this typical for this time of the year?
Yeah, early August, 90, 85 degrees, humid.
Okay, I can't complain. It's not bad weather.
A downpour, yeah, it's pretty typical. Dog days of summer here in August right now. And, not a whole lot's going to change. One day will be a little less active than others. I think, the things are looking now, probably less coverage in storms tomorrow versus what we saw for today. And even today, okay, it might have rained 1 or 2 hours where you were, especially if you were in Ohio or Kentucky. And, and then it's drying out. So these come and go. They don't tend to linger. We do have a flash flood warning for the Buchanan area. That's the only active warning in West Virginia right now, but this is not a repeat of a couple weeks ago. So had a big downpour, dropped about 1.5 inches of rain, and now it's moving out. Getting some heavy rain up I-79 in Weston, but this is moving. So this is not like it was a couple weeks ago where it's just sitting there and just dumping inches of rainfall. Around Elizabeth, Wirt County Fair. Ooh, not great right now. It's pouring. Some thunder and lightning nearby as well. But the back edge is already showing up into northeastern Jackson County. So I think by 6:30, 7 o'clock, it should be drying out there. Meanwhile, down to the south, we got a couple of downpours crossing through southern Jackson County into Roane County. None of this is severe, but it'll rain hard here for a short period of time. These are fairly small downpours. And this is an outflow boundary, a little gust of wind, which should drop our 90-degree temperature at Yeager Airport, which is the first time we've hit 90 since July 17th. That should knock it back to about 85 here as that passes. I also think, as this interacts with some of these showers coming up through East Bank, Montgomery, probably going to see these get a little stouter. So southern and eastern Kanawha County especially, probably going to see an increase in some storm chances here over the next 30, 40 minutes. They'll get a little bit stronger, probably some lightning as that boundary interacts with that. And all this stuff that's coming up through near Logan County and through Boone County as well, probably going to get back up into downtown Charleston as well. So I think as we get closer to 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock this evening, there will be some rain nearby for Charleston at least. Huntington might see a shower around that time as this stuff sneaks its way up towards Wayne, but that might fade away. But I definitely think the Kanawha Valley, be ready for an hour's worth or so of some rain later on this evening, and then it will fade away, like it has for the Scioto County Fair and the Gallia County Fair. It was pouring there earlier today. Now it's cleared out. So again, there's that development kind of focusing along the I-77 corridor here, 7, 8 o'clock this evening. Once the sun goes down, these will fade. There'll just be some spotty showers left over by midnight. And overnight, we'll watch for some areas of fog to develop as we bottom out at around 70 degrees. Then it's back to hot sunshine. We do it again tomorrow. But the boundary today that focused a lot of the activity in the tri-state, that's going to be over eastern West Virginia tomorrow. So, okay, 5 o'clock, at least on Futurecast, that's not a lot. Now, as we get into the evening tomorrow, it develops a couple spotty downpours, but overall, that's a lot calmer than it was for today. So I think there'll be less coverage of the downpours for Thursday versus what it was for today and this evening. But then Friday, atmosphere will kind of reload. So yeah, we'll probably have some afternoon, evening downpours crossing through. This forecast model takes it through pretty quickly, though, from west to east. So maybe it pours in Charleston or Huntington at 5, 6 o'clock, and then by 7, 8 o'clock, clears out. So these are brief interruptions. They can cause street flooding, though. You can get a quick 1 to 2 inches of rainfall out of any of those downpours here the next couple of days just because of the high humidity. And so even when the temperature's mid-80s, it'll feel every bit of 90 degrees. Still think it's more spotty chances on Sunday, so more dry time Sunday compared to Saturday. 88 there, and then we'll get into the lower 90s for a couple of days early next week. Storm chances up near Route 50 Monday, but it will drop south with some stronger storm potential, I think, later next Tuesday and Wednesday.
Thank you, Doug. Well, Disney is opening its vault to TikTok creators. A new deal will let users feature characters and worlds from Disney, Star Wars, Marvel, and Pixar in their videos. Some of that content will also appear on Disney+. Now, the partnership is a major early move for new Disney CEO Josh D'Amaro as the company looks to grow its streaming audience.
Some of those new Disney movies I haven't seen, but we were talking a couple days ago about our favorite ones.
Yeah,
some of those old ones. Old school ones are fun, like Lion King, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the WNBA is returning to Cleveland with a brand new team after 25 years. Yesterday, the league revealed the name and its logo for its 16th team, the Cleveland Sirens. According to the team's site, they were named for Lake Erie. The Sirens will play at Rocket Arena in 2028. Cleveland's first WNBA team was the Rockers, which played from 1997 to 2003. I actually remember going to a Cleveland Rockers game when I was little. I think it was their first season.
Is that one of your favorite teams, or was it?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed all sports, but the Rockers, they were only, I think, 5 or 6 years in existence. So it's nice to bring that back to Cleveland, having a women's professional basketball team.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sesame Street's Elmo is helping normalize tube feeding for children. Sesame Workshop and Complete released a new song, What is Better Than How? Now, it features real families and celebrating children who get nutrition through feeding tubes. Caregivers can also create personalized versions of the song. Well, he told federal agents he worked for the State Department and was part of the security detail. Investigators say that was not true. Coming up, the encounter at President Trump's golf course that led to an arrest, a federal gun charge, and a search for a motive.
Federal authorities arrested a person they allege was surveilling President Trump's security ahead of a fundraiser in Southern California.
Investigators say the suspect was acting suspicious and later discovered firearms and other concerning items at the suspect's home. ABC's Jacqueline Lee has more from Los Angeles.
The search for a motive continues after a man was arrested for allegedly surveilling President Trump's security and was allegedly armed with firearms and ammunition. Authorities charged 38-year-old Janine John Taylor with possession of an unregistered short-barreled rifle. First Assistant U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley saying in a statement, quote, "While we are still investigating the motives of this individual, we are thankful he was apprehended before the president's visit." Federal officials say in the days before President Trump's golf fundraiser in Rancho Palos Verdes, Taylor visited twice. According to the LA County Sheriff's Department, federal agents noticed Taylor was surveilling security and taking photos and videos of the venue. On his second visit, federal agents say he told them that he worked for the State Department and was there for security detail. After officers detained Taylor, they say they found a loaded pistol, ammunition, an illegally modified AR-style rifle, body armor, radio signal devices, and multiple notebooks described as having concerning statements.
He was not known to the Secret Service, and it didn't seem at this point that he had raised any suspicions up with even local law enforcement.
FBI officials in Los Angeles saying in a statement that given the previous attempts on President Trump's life, there is, quote, no room for error.
The threat environment right now is higher than we've ever seen before. Part of that is because of the foreign actors, the rise in mental health cases, the use of social media and the internet it's never been used like this before.
If Taylor is found guilty of the firearm offense, it is a felony that carries a 10-year prison sentence. Jacqueline Lee, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Now, coming up, a new ballot could ban AI-powered surveillance cameras across Huntington. We learn who's behind the effort and what it could mean for our privacy and public safety in a live report in just a few minutes.
Can't just pass out a bunch of money without any sort of accountability.
West Virginia state leaders are questioning the governor's concerns about where school voucher funding is going, the discrepancy in priorities, and how those who need the program hang in the balance.
And a familiar face leading the Fort Gay Police Department in a new direction, how the police chief is focusing on better protecting children.
This is your News on 8 at 6.
West Virginia's school clothing voucher program takes yet another twist.
After the governor said he'd be investigating the state's clothing voucher spending, state leaders and advocates are questioning whether Patrick Morrissey's concerns are valid.
8 reporter Bailey Tucker brings us the latest development in a story we've been covering for more than a month.
If your family receives a school clothing voucher from the state, the way you're able to use that money might soon change. Governor Patrick Morrissey says he's wanting that money to only be used for clothes and not cash withdrawals.
We can put guardrails in place around these programs. We can't just pass out a bunch of money without any sort of accountability.
New numbers are coming out of the governor's office for school clothing voucher spending, and he's wondering where the money is actually going. A social media post suggests nearly half of the money's being withdrawn from ATMs and cannot be traced.
I want the money for school clothes, not for beer or cigarettes. I'm sorry, but I'm going to push for that, and I'm not going to let people change the topic.
Fayette County Senator and Senate Health Committee Chairman Brian Helton says his committee is planning to take a look at the program and figure out how to prevent the misuse of funds.
We've already called next week during our legislative oversight, our locker meeting, that we're going to have folks in